Apple and OpenAI aren't making any money off of each other, and Apple discontinues Apple Pay Later. This is MacVoices. MacVoices is supported by the MacVoices Slack. Discussions, questions, and answers, and a place to talk tech with your friends. The MacVoices Slack is available to all patrons of MacVoices. Sign up at patreon.com/MacVoices and join in. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, it's MacVoices Live. It's Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, or a little after, whatever that is, wherever you are. We're on YouTube at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV. We've got a bunch of our friends in the chat room already. We've got a full panel, and we've got a lot of catching up to do because last week we spent the whole show talking about WWDC. So this week we're going to cover some of last week's highlights as well as this week's highlights in the world of tech. And boy, it seems like things are popping everywhere. But let's pop around and find out who's here before we get to the stories. So let's do it as we always do. First up in the top left of my screen, Mr. David Ginsburg. David, good to have you.
Good to be here. Yeah, recovering from WWDC from last week, but a good recovery. So glad to be here and have some good other topics.
Yeah, a lot of good other topics. Over on the other side, Mr. Ben Roethig, sporting a new background, I think, from his new website. Ben, good to have you.
It's good to be here.
How's the website
Ready
going?
to talk some tech? Huh?
How's the website going?
Fingers crossed. I had to call in Patrice to tell me what was going on with the email output, but it's going. I literally have a partially written article on Pages in the background.
Good. Okay. Good. Well, we'll look forward to it. And if folks want to check out the new website, the URL is
RoethigTech.com.
Perfect. Thank you. Being attacked by a giant butterfly, Mr. Eric Bolden. Eric, it's great to see you. Is that photoshopped in, or is that
Nope.
a live capture?
That was an actual real butterfly from earlier today. So a red admiral butterfly across a field of time.
That's not easy to catch a butterfly with its wings open like that. I mean, that's impressive shooting.
There are a lot of pictures where it doesn't look like that.
And what was your success ratio?
I have that one.
Chuck, success only takes one.
Yes. Well, that's good.
100%.
Thank you for sharing it. Marty Jencius is here, the man who does the Vision Profiles podcast with Eric. Marty, Good to see you.
It's good to be here. It's nice to know that Eric spends his days chasing butterflies. I think he has another job, but he's chasing butterflies right now.
I think he should be chasing members of this panel with a net, but that's another discussion.
Well, it's only because they've got that new feature where you can do the kind of 3D pop out. That butterfly looks gorgeous on an Apple Vision Pro.
I bet.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
I bet it does.
Yeah.
You're going to have to pick one up so you can see it in person.
You guys, you're gonna. No, never mind. Mark Fuccio is here with another of his trademark backgrounds. Mark is, first of all, what is that? And second of all, is that AI generated?
It is most certainly AI generated. Dolly using a Copilot. We had a lot of stories in the queue tonight, and I just asked Copilot to generate some images, and we'll see. Hopefully, Apple will do a better job because this thing generates images, but when you tell it what text to use, it gets it wrong 100% of the time. So we'll see what happens. Yeah.
It is beta, right?
Well, it's Microsoft, so that's a redundant question.
I didn't say that, folks. Just keep for the
But anyway, Chuck,
keeping
it's
score.
good. Anyway, Chuck, it's good to be with you in the panel again. And
it's
I've
good.
got to leave in about an hour, so 6:10. So
we should have gotten through the introductions by then.
Okay.
Speaking of introductions, Mr. Jeff Gamet. I don't know what that segue was, but Jeff, it's good to have you.
It was great. It was totally on topic. Chuck, it's always awesome to get to hang out with you.
Well, I'm glad you're here. I was going to ask you about your butterfly, and it's like, no, I was afraid where that might go. So
I'll draw you another picture. Also, my background is completely analog.
Oh, thank you, Jeff. Yeah. Jim Ray is here. He's becoming the man of many hats and different backgrounds even. Jim, good to see you. You were our man on the ground at WWDC.
Welcome to the talk show.
Were you the wrap up guest that never got any publicity? Was that it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very low profile.
Looking very dapper tonight, Mr. Webb Bixby. Webb, good to have you.
Chuck, good to be here. It's I haven't done any research this week, so I'm going to be the best guest ever, or panelist, I should say. So
right. You're not clouded up with a lot of facts.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Don't let that get in the way.
Exactly. We don't need facts.
Good to be here, Chuck.
Good to have you, Webb. Last but absolutely not least, sliding in under the wire again, Mr. Brian Flanigan-Arthurs. Brian, thank you so much for the extra effort to get in here and get this close to starting time. Oh, I think you're muted, Brian.
There we go.
There you go.
All right. Thank you. Good to be here.
All right. Well, let's get off the ground because we got a lot of stuff. So I think someone alluded to this in the pre-show, and I'm throwing everything in. OpenAI and Apple are not exchanging any money for the use of ChatGPT in the new Mac OS, or excuse me, the new iOS. Anybody surprised by this? I mean, I'd like to see what the second page of the contract says, because I have my feelings about why this could be a good thing and why it might not be, but I was anxious to hear what your thinking was. Mark?
Yeah, so I think I looked at it, from the perspective of, Apple is getting ground down all over the world on, its pay for play access. So here, this is beautiful. They're not paying for anything, and if the rumor are true, they'll get 15 or 30% or whatever their customary slice is if people upgrade to get commercial subscriptions to ChatGPT. So, I think that regard, it's beautiful. It solves a problem for Apple, as well as gets over the negotiation of, whose thing is worth more than the other. I think there's probably general agreement, ChatGPT is worth something, but access to Apple's customer base is also worth a hell of a lot. So instead of fighting over which of those two things is worth more, you just cut to the chase. And the only thing that matters is if people see enough value in it and subscribe to it, then they can divide it, sort of 85-15 or 70-30, and they can walk away and be happy.
Marty?
Yeah, I think it is a big win-win. I think the unspoken part of this is Apple will have access to the type of questions that people are asking ChatGPT with de-identified information, but still they'll have the questions and potentially access to the answers, which means it can go into their cloud computing system. So they have the potential of finding out what people are leaving the Apple ecosystem for to go into ChatGPT, the types of questions, and it will help them build their internal AI even better. I'm not surprised. I mean, I am a paid user of ChatGPT, so it will be interesting to see how those two services interface. I also think, more people, more eyeballs are going to be on the would you like to go to ChatGPT option, which will draw people to, yeah, let's try this out. And so I think it's a win. It really is a win-win for both of them. It's a quid pro quo in a lot of ways.
In the truest sense, yeah. Jeff?
Marty, I love that you said quid pro quo, because I think that that really sums up the foundation of this business relationship. From OpenAI's perspective, I think that they are taking the Netflix strategy, which is do everything you can to be every place people could possibly be. And for the longest time, it didn't matter what product you bought, it had Netflix installed. Buy a toaster, it has Netflix. And so OpenAI wants ChatGPT to be the first thing that you find everywhere you go when you're looking for some sort of generative content. As far as win-win in this, the winners for the Apple side are shareholders. I believe this deal is from Apple side is straight up because of shareholders, because everything that they created with their own Apple intelligence, I think does almost everything that Apple users are going to want. And then adding in the ChatGPT side gives them the ability to say, and look, we have the other things too. So Apple will win from that side, and then from the ChatGPT side, it's because they have now just slid right in without having to pay a penny onto the platform where they're most likely, I think, to draw in new subscribers.
So what do you guys think about Microsoft's reaction when this came out? Do you think
What was it?
That's it. What was the reaction? I mean, think about what Microsoft paid to OpenAI to invest in OpenAI. Let's get the terminology right here. As I recall, I think it's the letters designation started with a B. And yet Apple's getting the benefit of ChatGPT, even if it is a third tier down in the Apple intelligence hierarchy, and they aren't paying a penny.
I think Microsoft has so far the correct response, which is no response.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, Microsoft's an owner, right?
They're an investor, not an owner.
Don't they have a equity stake?
Well, if they're an
they have
investor,
such
yeah.
a corporate mess. They own something, but it's not clear how much influence that confers, and whether do they own it in the nonprofit or they own it in the for-profit subsidiary. I don't know if that's ever been made clear.
If it has, I missed
but
it.
we can
Mark.
search. We can search for that.
Yeah. It's. I really think it's interesting. It makes me feel like ChatGPT, to Jeff's point, wanted to be on this platform so bad, because it's. I mean, look, for better or worse, it's got itself integrated into Windows, so that means it's basically taken over the PC world. But it needed an entree into the Mac world, even if they had to settle for third place. So, any other comments or thoughts before we move on?
Well, yeah, I think also on Microsoft, they're probably in the perspective of, they're out there pushing ahead with their own efforts. And as far as Apple goes, I think their view should be show us. Don't talk about it, just show us. We're busily working. We have confidence in what we're doing, and let's see what happens.
Eric?
Because I think that some of the confusing thing about what was reported is I believe Microsoft did a between $1 and $2 billion equity investment, and then they committed about 12 or 13 billion dollars of services, for data center time for training the models. So that's something that OpenAI didn't have the financial resources to do. It's certainly valuable to them, but it's not an equity investment.
Eric?
Correct. I found an article because, of course, I'm sitting here doing the research. All right, so this is from Windows Central, and this is from December 19th, 2023, and part of the discussion in the article is under a heading, Does Microsoft OpenAI? And it says Microsoft has invested, I'm quoting now, $13 billion in OpenAI. According to those familiar with the situation, Microsoft confirmed a $1 billion investment during the early days of OpenAI and a multi-billion-dollar investment in OpenAI this year, meaning 2023. But it did not specify the exact amount. Reportedly, Microsoft's recent investment in OpenAI came to the tune of $10 billion. Microsoft is entitled to up to 49% of the for-profit arm of OpenAI's profits, according to the reports, but that's not the same as 49% ownership. And it says this investment does not result in Microsoft owning part of OpenAI, and then it goes on from there.
But again, so I got information from Google, from Microsoft Copilot, which is substantially the same as yours, but it clarifies that Microsoft invested in OpenAI, the for-profit entity, which is partially owned, I guess, by Microsoft, and whatever their wacky foundation is. So they have a whole bunch
there's
of
a nice
different
flow chart in the
structures.
article that I shared the link for.
Sure.
That it does a great job of visualizing what you just said.
And of course, folks, and the links we're talking about will be shared in the show notes when the show is published. They get thrown into our YouTube chat room whenever they fit. And unfortunately, Jeff, the one you just put in is only 4 characters too long. So if anybody's in the chat room, just fill out the word company and you'll get the full link. No, you won't. It won't even let me do that.
Let me see if I can make it a... Oh, okay. Hold on. Let me do this where I take off the part that Google put in that highlights the part of the article, because we're all big kids and we're capable of reading.
Okay.
Speak for yourself, Jeff.
Most of us are big kids and capable of reading.
Eric, while Jeff is fixing this for all us big kids,
try that.
You had a comment? Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, what I was going to say is Apple has done a really nice job of taking all of the Apple Intelligence components and breaking them down into smaller pieces and implementing them in chunks. And the ChatGPT piece is outside, but kind of tied to those chunks. I think they've done a nice job of reducing risk. If something totally blows up and becomes totally embarrassing, they can move it out of the way, or they can bring other groups in. It's kind of a nice way of doing it without having quite so much of the embarrassment that some of the other companies have had with their implementations, where it's just been everything gets sent out to one big, huge, I'll answer anything, and any answer could come back.
I hadn't thought about it exactly that way, but you're not wrong.
Plausible deniability.
Yeah. Always a good thing.
Well, and you don't have to stop shipping everything. You could turn one piece off and keep the other pieces going, so you always have a product out there. It's not an all or nothing.
Okay. Yeah, that's a real good point. So this is fairly recent as we're recording this. I think this may have even been just today that Apple is announcing they're discontinuing their pay later, which is only a year or two old.
7 months. It's been out in the wild for everybody.
Only 7? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Only 7. So I mean, it's been various sorts of beta for a while before that, but the official everybody launch was 7 months ago.
So is
I
this?
would say it probably wasn't going right. It wasn't going the way they wanted.
Well, I think that that one's obvious, Webb. But I wonder which direction it was going wrong.
I have a feeling people weren't using it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree with Jeff there. But, I think I'm speculating here. I think Apple may have viewed it as sort of a financing play, but Affirm, there's a company Affirm, and they, they
Yeah.
have, they went public, I don't know, 18 months ago or so, and I heard a discussion last fall about them that it's more than just financing. That one of the values they provide to vendors is instead of a vendor having to offer a huge 25, 30, 40% discount to get somebody to buy something, the buy now, pay later customer will basically buy it at list price or with a minor discount. And then there would be some sort of revenue sharing commission back from the vendor back to a firm. So in cases like that, that's not something that just scales by throwing code onto a bunch of servers. You need to create all sorts of relationships with companies. The other thing they do is they have their own algorithms, for scoring credit scores, based on I guess people's usage. So that's another adaptive thing that is more than just scaling and how you do processing. So I think they probably found out it's a little bit more complex than they thought, and that plus just observing that also Square, formerly or Block, formerly known as Square, also has a buy now pay later, and both of them have been in decline, and so it indicates that maybe consumers are a little bit extended, and if so, I suspect Apple may have reacted to a combination of people not really using it because it's not as fully featured as other things in the market. Plus, if they're seeing that they're getting bad debt, it's basically good reason to create, make a strategic retreat and move on to something else. Because I did see in some of the articles they're talking about an upcoming partnership between Affirm and Apple, and Affirm has done one, sometime back in May with Google for Google Wallet. So I think in the buy now pay later space, it seems that they're the leader, and again, Apple is just Apple will work with partners.
Yeah, Brian.
Yeah, I was just when I was reading the article, I was thinking, oh, bummer, because I've never used the the pay later feature. However, I was thinking about this coming fall with a major purchase. I think this fall I'm going to be upgrading both my phone and my Apple Watch. And I was thinking, okay, so on the Apple Watch, you can use an Apple Card. You can do your 1 year of payments, no interest, that type of thing, and that's gonna be a great opportunity there to not have to have it all in one billing cycle. However, with the phone, because I'm not with one of the big three carriers, they don't offer that as an option to spread those payments over 24 months with no interest. And it's like, oh, it's a bummer, to have it on again one billing cycle. But I was like, oh, maybe for the first time, I'll go ahead and use that, split into at least 4 payments, and that'd be a little bit easier to swallow. But looks like nope, it's going to go on one billing cycle. So,
well, at least at the moment, I mean, and the good thing is there's some other buy now pay later options. They just won't be funded through Apple. And as Mark said, there's some indications that there will be something else by somebody else. Just the question will be, how is it structured? How long will it run? Will you get the 3% back from
bingo.
Apple? Almost
Yeah.
certainly not. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see who's up next. Ben.
I have to say this combined with no immediate announcement of an Apple Card partner has me wondering if Apple has reconsidered their financial ambitions.
Anybody have thoughts on that?
I was saying the same thing about the what could be the implosion of Goldman and the Apple credit card. But they're also going through the whole deal about placing those credit cards people have now. I just got mine in the mail yesterday. So,
well, I mean, these things take a while to wind down.
Oh yeah.
And I think the physical cards are the least the least expensive of the commitments there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking the same as Ben, that wondering how this is tied into, or will it be tied into the Apple Card? And is it reflective of what's going on with the Apple Card? When the article talked about two other services, and even internationally other services that are being used, I thought, I'm familiar with that. I mean, I've used those services for certain things in the past, Affirm being one of them. But it's short term. It's not as long as 12 months in the turnaround, and it's cut into small payments. I think actually Apple should just create their own service and call it Loan Shark. And they could get 20% instead of 3% or whatever they get.
Well, I mean, it basically was Loan Shark.
I didn't think, Ben, that the interest rate, if you didn't make the payments, I didn't think the interest rate was that much out of line with any of the other credit card companies. I mean, they're all crazy high right now. So,
well, interestingly, again, on Affirm, they will create a dynamic score, and in their SEC filings, they say their interest rate will range. It's simple interest, so it doesn't compound, so you don't get into deeper and deeper debt. It's simple interest, but it's in the range of 2 to 36%. So that's pretty exorbitant at the high end. That can make up for a lot of compounding.
Yeah, I'll say, God, 36%. David.
Yeah, if you looked at the article too, Apple is kind of in a way returning back to this buy now pay later. They did say that they might offer later this year going through credit and debit cards when ordering with Apple Pay. So Apple says they're going to continue to focus on providing those users access to easy and secure payment options. So if they can partner it and put it within Apple Pay, I think that's probably more their motivation of this than to have to flip the bill on their own. So why not use like a Synchrony or like a one of those other larger banks that do a lot of this buy now pay later stuff. So that I think is something that is probably what is in Apple's mind versus being doing the whole thing.
Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices, or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.